What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Magali. If you're new here, I'm a personal trainer here to help make fitness and health simple to understand, easy to follow so that you can achieve the results that you want. And in today's video, I want to talk to you about how to get out of a funk, how to get motivated again, how to find that spark to get back into your routine, back in the game, getting those workouts in, doing your meal planning, all of that stuff when you feel like you can't get out of the rut no matter how hard you try. I just want to first start off this video by being totally and completely honest with you guys. I am currently in one of these ruts right now as I'm recording this. I just got a new kitty. I'll insert a video here for you cat lovers. She has been a handful. We have an adult cat and that was my first introduction to living with a cat, and she's so low maintenance. She's so chill. She's like does her own thing, and then I have this little ball of fur and she's just all over the place. So as a result, my routines have suffered. My motivation to get back into working out has suffered because I want to be with her, I want to watch her, I want to take care of her, and that's just what happens sometimes. And this is not the first time this has happened, and it's not going to be the last. These things are normal. So that leads me to my first point, is understanding that you not feeling motivated, you having no desire to work out, no inspiration, you're in that rut. Those feelings are normal and there is nothing wrong with you, and you are not broken. People who are many more years advanced, people like me and people who are a little bit newer, we all have the same struggle. We're going to fall into these moments of lack of motivation, a dip in inspiration, you don't want to do anything, and this could be fueled by the fact that you're having a difficult time, you're going through a really tragic time, you're just stressed at work, whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter why you're here. The point is it's going to happen, and it's normal. If you ask anybody who's elite, anybody who's advanced, anybody who has been doing this for a long time, they will laugh at you if you say, aren't you motivated all the time? No, I wish. And that just goes to show you that this is a normal human emotion, and no matter how far into your journey you are going to feel these things, and it is not a thing that you should be ashamed of. It is not something to feel guilty about. It is not something weird or abnormal. The first thing that I want you to do is drop the expectation that you're going to be motivated and inspired all of the time. It's unrealistic, it's not going to happen, and it's only going to set yourself up for disappointment. This is totally normal. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. And that leads me to my next point. Because it's a normal human emotion, don't guilt yourself. Don't shame yourself for feeling this way. It's like blaming yourself or shaming yourself for breathing. It's a normal emotion. What that ends up doing to us is it just makes us feel worse. When you're already in a bad space of like you're not motivated, you're in a funk, you're stuck, and now you come on and bully yourself, like that's not going to help you get out of it. That's just going to make things worse. You're never going to come out more motivated when you just focus on the negative, beat yourself down to the ground, treat yourself like your worst enemy. Because it's a human emotion and because it's common, you should not be guilting yourself. You should not be shaming yourself if you are in this position. What you should be doing instead is acknowledging like, hey, I'm feeling this way and I need to deal with it. Here are the things that I'm going to do, and I'll get to that later in the video, but it's not a time for you to use that information and weaponize it against yourself and make yourself feel worse and make yourself feel guilty for it. So trying to bury yourself further into the hole with guilting yourself and shaming yourself is not only unproductive, it's going to make getting out of the rut that much harder. So try to be objective, understand how you're feeling, but don't use it to make yourself feel worse. And my next point is to drop the all or nothing mentality. When we are trying to get out of a rut, when we are trying to get unstuck, we tend to overwhelm ourselves with all of the things that we have to do, all of the things that we're behind in, all of the changes that we have to make, and it can become overwhelming. It can become almost like too much where we're paralyzed and we don't end up doing anything. You know what I'm talking about. You know those days where you have a shit ton to do and you're like, yep, I'm going to spend all day in bed and do absolutely nothing. That's what tends to happen, and that's because our brains are overwhelmed. They don't know how to deal with all of these different things. So instead of trying to figure everything out and to get everything perfect and everything perfectly aligned in one day, in 1 week, try to focus on being consistent. What's interesting is there's a study that Precision Nutrition did. They did a study where they separated people into different groups. Some people were 10 to 50% consistent, others were 50 to 60, I think 70 to 80, 80 to 90, so forth and so on. And what they were looking at is how much progress can a 10% consistent person make, how much can a 20, 30, so forth and so on. And what they found was even though 10% people still got less results than the 90% people, which makes absolute perfect sense, the 10% consistent group still saw progress. They still had something to show for their efforts, even if, like for example, 10% consistency looks like out of the 30 days of the month, you got 3 days right. That was still more than the people who did nothing. And yes, it's less than 90%, but it's better than 0. And that study went on to show that no matter what percent you can give right now, whatever your situation is, it is always going to be better than 0. So don't think you're going to get everything figured out. Don't try to if it's not feeling right. Just focus on what percent effort can you give right now and can give consistently, and that's going to give you way better results than trying to do way too much or doing nothing at all. So drop the all or nothing mentality. Focus on consistency over perfection. Whatever amount of effort you can give is still better than nothing, and give yourself credit for that and be proud of that. So next, we normalized it. We understand it's normal. We're not going to guilt ourselves. We're not going to feel shameful. We understand that we're not going to have to get everything in order right away. Consistency is more important than being perfect. Now, what do we actually do to turn this around? And that's where the next step comes in. That is choosing 1 to 3 things to do consistently. And these 1 to 3 things, there's a very specific set of rules that I want you to follow with this. Like I just mentioned before, our brains tend to want to overcompensate for the fact that we're behind by giving us all these different things to do. But what's most effective is trying to simplify things. So instead of trying to do 20 things at once, choose 1 to 3 things. And what I want you to do with these things is make them so simple that it seems almost silly how simple they are. Like if you have that thought in your head when you're mapping these things out, like, that's way too easy, I need to be doing more, that's exactly where you need to be. So for example, these 1 to 3 things can look like, for me, one would be getting back into my routine of working out 4 days a week. My second thing would be drinking a gallon of water, and my third would be tracking all my food. Now, these 3 things are simple for me because I've been doing them for years, and it's not that much work to do those things consistently. Those obviously may be different for you, but for me, that's not a ton of work. Now, in my mind, I'm already challenging myself, like, no, I should be doing more, but I'm like, look, let's start there, and once we master those things, then I can overcomplicate things a little bit more and start progressing more. But the magic of simplifying things like that is that it allows you to build momentum. It allows you to get started. And the lower the threshold, the lower the effort you have to put in for these things, the more likely you are to do them. So if they're very easy, almost too easy, you're going to do them. And then tomorrow, you're going to do it again, and then again, and again. And you're going to build this confidence, this momentum. And that's when you worry about doing more and more things. Figure out what these 1 to 3 things are for you. Is it going on short walks? Is it drinking a little bit extra water? Is it meeting your protein goal? Is it eating a bit more vegetables? Is it getting 1 gym workout a week? Find what that thing is for you. Write them down and follow them consistently, but simplify them so that they're easy to do and it's almost like hard not to do it. And that's how you're going to know you're in the right place, and start there. Once you have figured out your 1 to 3 things, the next thing you want to do is focus on the 24 hours in front of you. We tend to make all of these plans for the future, and we want to overplan and overcompensate again for the fact that we're behind, that we try to plan 3, 4, 5 months in advance. Focus on the 24 hours in front of you. You haven't been on your routine for a couple of days, weeks, months, or maybe even years. You just need to be focusing on the day in front of you. Master the day in front of you. Focus on doing those 1 to 3 things in the day in front of you. Once you master that day, you move on to the next, and then the next. And once you have a consistent record of hitting it daily, then you can start thinking of more time ahead. But right now, we're just trying to get back into the routine. So you're trying to make it, again, as simple as possible. It's much easier to focus on 24 hours than it is to focus on 24 weeks, right? There's so much that can happen in 24 weeks. 24 hours, we have a little bit more control of. When you have these 1 to 3 things, focus on hitting them consistently in the 24 hours in front of you. Get enough consistency in, do it enough times, and then you can start planning more in the future and getting more and more excited. So once we've done all of that, we have our 3 things, we're not feeling guilty, we're normalizing how we feel, we're not expecting perfection out of us. What do we do now? You keep being consistent. You keep on doing the things that you're doing. And the beautiful thing about it is you can take as long as you want to make those 1 to 3 things habits again. You can take a month, you can take 2 months, you can take 3 months. And at some point, they're going to become so easy, you feel like you're not really getting anywhere with them anymore. That's when you add on complexity. That's when you start to plan more difficult things and you start to add more habits. So now you add a 4th thing, or you make one of the things harder. And from this point on, it's just a matter of consistency and doing it enough times until finally you feel a little bit more momentum, and then you get your motivation back. The interesting part about it all is once you have built those habits and you're doing things consistently and you're doing all these things regularly, that's when motivation comes back, and that's when we get out of the rut. And it's funny because we expect the opposite to happen, where we expect motivation to come first and then we act. It's always the opposite. So now you're having motivation, now you're consistent, now you're back into a routine. This is a point where you either keep doing what you're doing if it's working, re-simplify things if it's not, or if you feel like it's not really doing much for you anymore because you've progressed, you start adding more complexity and more habits on top of that. Let's say, for example, you've been doing 20 days in a row and you're killing it, and then on the 21st you fall off. Oh my God, what do I do now? You continue on forward. Whatever you were going to do on day 22, you do that, and you keep doing it, and you keep moving forward. And that, you guys, is the secret. That is the secret to staying motivated long term and staying consistent and staying on track long term. You're going to have dips, you're going to have moments where you lose motivation, you're going to have times in your life where it's really difficult to stay consistent. But as long as you follow these steps where you make these simple, you focus on consistently hitting them, and then when you've mastered it, you add on, you can get through any rut, through any challenge that comes your way now in the future. Because again, this is not the only time that you're going to feel this way. I'm sure it's not the first, and it's not going to be the last. So don't expect it to be the last. You're going to have to experience this again. So am I, so are you. As you can see, there is nothing revolutionary about what I talked about. There is nothing secret and, oh my God, I never knew that before. It's all stuff we know. But sometimes it's nice to be reminded that it's not so much about trying to be perfect and trying to figure everything out and getting everything perfectly in line. It's just taking one step at a time, focusing on being consistent, being okay with mistakes happening, and just focusing on moving forward when those mistakes happen and not allowing them to beat you down and guilt yourself and fall backwards. All that to say, routines will fall off. You'll lose motivation. It's going to happen to you. These steps hopefully, served as a guide for you to follow when that happens, but also understand that it's going to happen sometimes. At least now you have a plan to follow, and you have a little bit more information on what to do when it happens, so that you can minimize the amount of time that you're in the rut. Because the longer you're in the rut, the longer it takes to get out of it, and you have a little bit more confidence in yourself to get through it and come out on the other side even stronger. So you are not weird for lacking motivation. I'm with you here, currently struggling myself with the same thing, and I'm currently going to get through it the same way you are. So I hope this video was helpful. I hope that it helped guide you in the right direction. I hope that it gave you some points of inspiration to work towards. And I promise you, you can do this. It's not going to be forever that you feel this way. It's just a temporary feeling. And when you get to the other side, you're going to be that much prouder of yourself for having gone through the rut. Not only that, but also achieving and being persistent with the goals that you have. So that'll be it for today's video, you guys. I hope you enjoyed. I hope it was helpful. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know any questions you have, any video suggestions, anything like that. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace out, guys.